Welcome to Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk all things BYU, Big 12, and conference realignment. And as a BYU fan and spending the last decade or so in independence, not part of a conference, I've kind of forgotten what it was like to be in a conference with other teams that you play regularly every year. And granted, we've only been through 1 year of the Big 12, but I've already found myself readjusting to this conference and getting to know your opponents and develop those relationships, especially with being on social media, which really wasn't a part of it when BYU was last in a conference in the Mountain West. So as things have gone on, I've just found myself becoming more and more attached to certain teams and really starting to dislike other teams. And so what I want to do is go through and do a power ranking of teams and how I would root for them. Essentially, it's kind of prioritizing, considering if all things are neutral, which team would I root for? And so that means, granted, if there's one team that is on your schedule that year versus another, obviously you might root for them a little bit more because you want the teams that you either beat or lose to, and to go on to have successful seasons to then make your schedule look all that much better. Also, you might be rooting for the team that is in best position to end up in the college football playoff, which then benefits the conference as a whole and perception. And so there could be other things that play into it. But let's say all things are neutral, everything else is the same, and two schools are up against each other. How would you root for them? And so that's kind of the mindset that I went through as I did this power ranking for the Big 12 teams. And so now let's go take a look at that. But before we do, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also let us know in the comments how you would power rank the teams in the Big 12 based on this criteria. All right, let's jump to it. All right, so before jumping into this, let me explain my categories real quick. They're pretty self-explanatory, but first we've got BYU, and then adopted teams that I really find myself rooting for, not quite like I do BYU, but I feel a little bit more attachment towards them. Then there's teams that I just like and want to see them do well, teams I'm neutral for, not really strong one way or another. And then there's those that I root against. And then, of course, there's that last team. So really, the question is, who falls between what is BYU, obviously, and their heated rival? And for me, there's a lot of schools, some of which BYU has very little history with. And so I think this will continue to change as we continue in the Big 12, but as it stands right now. And so I think for me, the ones where it's easiest are really those that I have strong feelings against, I suppose. And I think the easy ones would be the schools coming over from the Pac-12, and I would put them probably in this order. So obviously, Arizona State, BYU has a little bit of history with, and we've continued to play them in the Pac-12. No real animosity there. I think they dislike BYU more than BYU really dislikes them. Both have strong LDS populations in the area, and so there's a lot of overlap between the two programs. I would give Arizona the nod over ASU, though. I think probably just the reputation as a party school. I don't know. There's really no real reason other than, I guess, kind of my perceptions of them. Colorado is a school that BYU has not played in a long time. I've really got no hard feelings towards it. It seems like, it's a school that I would root for often. In the Pac-12 one that I didn't have any animosity toward. They should probably be in the neutral or like, but this is really all geared around Coach Prime. And so for me, I'm just not really about that flashiness until, I don't know, just everything he's about. It also makes it really fun to watch Colorado now, but to kind of root against them. And it'll be very interesting to see if they're able to ever back up all the talk. If they flame out, it seems like some bad stuff coming out about the program right now. So it'll be very interesting to see as that plays out. Another one that BYU has had history with is TCU. Now, they should probably be lower because, BYU, at least in my mind, I didn't have any bad feelings towards TCU one way or another. And then they kind of came out and you could tell that they really did not like BYU. They started beating BYU, and now there is some, I think, feeling of rivalry there. It's a team that I probably like to have higher. I kind of reluctantly rooted for them as they were playing in the playoff and wanted to see them succeed. I also really like a lot of their branding and their color scheme, and so I'd like to like them, but I still have those hard feelings. So it'll be interesting to see how that rivalry continues and develops and changes over the course of them being back into the same conference. Let's see who else is down here. Oh yes, Iowa State, and I would say I probably have them right here between the Arizona schools. Not again, it's a school kind of like Colorado is a school that's Midwest, often kind of overlooked, not real flashy. Matt Campbell's a solid coach, seems like the type of program you would like, but this is all geared around really when BYU was first trying to get in to the Big 12 was at 2016, and then again when they were accepted. Just the reaction from the Iowa State student body threw a big hissy fit, did not want BYU, and made some public statements. So for me, that gave me plenty of fodder to use against Iowa State. And then what they did to BYU last year at LES, just even more so. So Iowa State is a team that is down, and that's really, it's just around those few petty reasons. But sometimes you got to find whatever reason to kind of get you invested in these games that are out there, and Iowa State is one that I enjoy rooting against for that reason. Let's see. Last one in this root against category, is UCF, and I don't know where I've got them. I think I probably put them at the top of this because they were the little guy and now they're up, but I think a lot of people understand being the little guy, feeling like they've been slighted and overlooked, and they certainly have a lot of potential. They're fun. They've got a great head coach. It seems like a very passionate fan base, but also a fan base that gave themselves a self-proclaimed title and just kind of comes across as having a little bit of entitlement and arrogance. Now, I'm not saying that's all UCF fans, maybe not even most of them, but that's the way that it comes across online and things. So for that reason, I've not been really warmed up to UCF yet. Now, in the next one, neutral are their fellow American, former American conference members were Cincy and Houston, and these two schools I've got nothing against. BYU doesn't have a long history with either of them. We've played them both a few times over the course of BYU's independence, and maybe it's just because they are the little guy. Normally, I would root for them a little bit more, probably have them up in a higher category over some of these other schools. But now that they're in the Big 12 with the rest of these, I've just got no strong reason to root for them one way or another. Maybe partially because neither one of them has beaten BYU yet, and so there's not that animosity towards them, but I also don't feel an attachment. I do like Willie Fritz, so that'll be interesting to see him at Houston, what he's able to do there. But so they're just pretty much neutral. And so this next category of for me, this is, actually, let me go up to my adopted teams because I want to get into these guys first. I think one that shouldn't surprise anyone is Baylor. BYU and Baylor have kind of a friendly rivalry that they've developed over the course of the years, the last few years. I think very similar in many regards, and there have been a lot of transfers between the schools. Coach Grimes left BYU, went to Baylor, and so while it was a good rivalry when they played, it was also somewhat friendly in terms, and so it'll be interesting to see if that changes. But for now, like Baylor, want to see them succeed. And the other one is, and this kind of surprised me, but is Kansas State. I've got no real reason to root for Kansas State. I've just always liked their uniforms and their color scheme and all that, and so and Bill Snyder, and so just classically over the years, it was just kind of a team that I would root for. It's not a flashy team, not from a flashy town. They just kind of feel like they're overlooked often, and they just go out there and do their thing. And I really like what Chris Kleiman's doing with the program. And so there's just a lot to like there with them. So those are my adopted teams, the teams I feel most attachment for. I really root for them, want to see them succeed this year with Kansas State as one of the favorites to win the Big 12. I would love to see them over some of these other schools that are favored to win the conference. Obviously, if BYU can really shock everyone and do it, that would be preferable. But if and when that's not the case, I think it would be great to see these other schools succeed. Now, this next category, I got to explain it because there's some surprises here. First is Oklahoma State. Actually, well, I'll do Oklahoma State first. This is mostly based around just the fan base and the fan engagement online. They all seem very passionate. I think a program headed by Mike Gundy always gives you a little bit of kind of keeps you on your toes, and so I think it's really just comes down to that. There's really no other reason. Just a fun program, a pretty good program, and just especially because they're one where there seems to be some sort of rivalry going between them and Utah already. So definitely siding with Oklahoma State there in that one. But a similar program, Texas Tech, I think just had some good engagement with fans and shows like the Gambling Gauchos and things, and just seems like a really passionate fan base. Seems like one that feels like they've been overlooked and overshadowed by a lot of other programs in Texas, but they don't, at least to me at this point, have kind of an arrogance about them. They seem like they're really just kind of a fun brand of football and a loud, crazy fan base. And what's not to like about that? West Virginia, they're actually kind of right on the cusp of the adopted teams, and that I've been to the two times that BYU has come out east to play West Virginia. I've been at those games, had really good interactions with the fans. Obviously, a lot of good content creators out there for West Virginia. You got Coos, we had Golden Blue Dude, and there's several others. And so I live in an area where there's a lot of West Virginia fans, so great interactions with them. I just like them, and a fun fan base, hard not to root for them, and what they're all about. And then Kansas, this one is, again, you have to look at this through the lens of football. That this is not basketball. If this were basketball, these rankings might be a little bit different, especially Kansas would be much lower. Like Colorado, for example, could be higher. Kansas would probably be, you could probably even swap those two. But in terms of football, it's just they've been down for so long, and they were so bad. And then to see Lance Leipold come in and what he's done with the program, really fun to watch, really good. And so I just think that's really cool. So right now they just are pretty high on the likability scale. So and definitely a team that's positioned to do some damage. And if you decouple from basketball, I mean, what's there not to like about that? It's just kind of a fun story and fun to see how much that program has changed. Now, if you're unable to decouple that, then Kansas would definitely be dragged down much lower because of it. All right, so what do you think of these team likability power rankings, and how would you power rank the teams in the Big 12? Whether you're a BYU fan or otherwise, there's really no wrong answer unless you have anything but Utah at the very bottom. Please let me know all that in the comments. Again, please give the video a like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. And as always, go Cougs.